cloud of green martin. Proud producer and proprietor. Patriotic projectile party poppers. Got some uppity brown people making trouble for your empire. Replace them with a charred freighter and a cloud of white smoke. So remember, if your next geostrategic boondoggle's going awry, don't call us, we'll call you.
Introducing Cognitive Interrupter Alpha. Oh yeah!
Oh no.
Oh yeah?
No.
Scientifically formulated by men who look like doctors. This supplement has been proven in over 1.5 studies to heighten critical thinking while simultaneously preserving your myopic, Abrahamic nationalist worldview while still keeping you on a short leash of ignorance and fear. Results may vary from person to person. May take 104 weeks to see lasting results. If warts appear,
Hey Doc, what the hell is this?
I don't know, but it don't look right.
please contact your local Jonestown chapter. And remember to check out Select Auto Shift for a sweet 45-degree win.
Going on 2026, so much has happened already with the kidnapping of Maduro for Paul Singer, conflict with Iran, riots in Iran, Trump talking about taking over Greenland, ICE is shooting people. Police shoot people every day, but these are on film because everyone's surrounding what's going on. And the most recent one was just so atrocious. And I thought, okay, now the bootlickers will stop. Nope. Like he came at him with a gun. No, he didn't.
Yeah, the lies surrounding
that.
that are ridiculous.
Oh,
You
the DHS lied about it on Twitter.
Yeah, as did Kash Patel. They've all. And what's interesting is they find it's so bad that the NRA has come out against the Trump administration. Yeah.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, the NRA is about legal, owning firearms and using firearms. They're not about shooting people.
Yeah. This was just, let's change the scenario. Let's say that this was a Second Amendment rally, that these people, that there was a Democrat government's in place in Washington. They're talking about seizing weapons from firearms from American citizens. And so this is a protest. And so an ATF agent comes up, shoves a woman to the ground who didn't do anything to him, who didn't assault him, didn't throw anything. And then one of the Second Amendment supporters who's carrying concealed steps in to intervene. Do you think these people who are now saying that he had it coming would say it was okay to shoot a Second Amendment supporter? Well, hell no, they'd be up in arms. So it's like, let's have one set of rules for everybody. And I don't care. They say, well, the leftists were behind him and he was he may have been part of an organized effort. I don't give a damn if he was inspired by Satan. He has.
You can't have a gun around a protest.
Yeah.
Can't have a gun around a protest.
Yep.
And to be consistent, I supported Kyle and that couple also. I say, yay, defending your property, defending yourself. This guy didn't even touch his gun. They shot him. I can tell you my 2 cents on the ICE thing because I don't think it's about immigration. I think it's a pretext for a police state. But I see something else coming. I think Trump wants to shut the government down again to avoid the Epstein files. And they're going to vote on the budgets for ICE and DHS. And the Democrats, like, if you do this, we're going to shut the government down.
Right.
And it's like old Burr Rabbit. Oh, don't throw me in the prior batch. Like, oh, don't do that. It's been now 39 days since they required release of the Epstein files. They released less than 1%. And of that 1%, they redacted a huge chunk of that. Although they did it in the wrong way. But they haven't given out emails, communications, not like the bulk of it's still unreadable, unknowable. Well, actually, it's knowable, just not in an easy way. Like I've had this. I feel like Pam Bondi. I've got the Epstein file on my desk. I have all the clients here, and in my mind, in my head, I can go through each one of them and say why I determined that person went on the list. Doesn't matter. There's nowhere for me to go. There's no media for me to go to and say, here's this on Jess Staley and Glenn Dubin and Les Wexner and blah, 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 blah. But I did see Thomas Massey subpoenaed the Clintons and also Richard Kahn and Les Wexner and Darren Endike. And the Clintons just didn't show up. That's supposed to come with a minimal jail time and $100,000 fine minimal.
Yeah.
But I don't think either one is going to happen to you.
No. I get it. It's just Republicans talk a good game, but when they get into office, you can't tell. It's difference between Democrat, Republican. It's it's all the same.
Well,
There are a few like Massey. Yeah,
Well,
but there are a few like Massey, even Anna Paulina Luna. But they're a minority. They don't move the wheel.
MTG had to tap out. She completely sided with Trump on everything, and he just threw her under the bus over these files.
Yeah,
I think in not releasing them, like they're not saying anything, and I would say that not saying anything says everything. I don't understand why he even talked about releasing them when he wasn't going to do it. He could have just been like Biden, just never mention it, and that's that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, they do so. He is showing some ability to change. So this head of ICE, what's the guy's name? Bovino. They just pulled him out of Minnesota tonight. So the guy who was leading the charge on the ground, they yanked him, and I think they now realize that that officer who shot this 37-year-old. I call him a kid because good Lord, he's 6 years younger than my son. So it's a kid in my book. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything to justify shooting. Nothing. And they did it. It was at a minimum, it's manslaughter, if not, third-degree murder.
When 6 people can't take down one male nurse, they don't belong in uniform.
Yeah.
Apparently, the gun they took off him, he said, "I'm carrying," and they took it off him, and then it fired on the ground, or the guy fired it.
Well, I'm not sure.
That sound, they freaked out and unloaded on him, but you can see it hit the pavement.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that he told him he was armed. But it doesn't matter. You're under no obligation to tell a law if you are not committing a crime. And number one, they had no reason to stop and detain him and demand his ID.
There was no reason to pepper spray him and tackle him in the first place.
Correct. Now, one of the MAGA crowd now making excuses for violating the Second Amendment and the First Amendment. They're saying that, he didn't identify himself. Well, you don't have to. If he had not committed a crime, was not being accused of committing a crime.
Ran up and sprayed him.
Yeah.
When was he supposed to do that?
He was trying to stop the guy from continuing to assault that woman. Again, she didn't do anything to deserve that.
Well, did anyone ask what did she say?
It doesn't matter.
I know.
She could call him. She could call him a motherfucker that enjoys sucking off pigs. Okay, horrific thing to say. It's protected speech.
Lindsey Graham can suck peanut butter through a straw.
Well, okay, he's got a unique talent. They're going to send him down to Venezuela to suck the oil out of the ground. It's about the same consistency.
Jerks off pigs. I just thought of Lindsey Graham. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Something about it. It was a little. I think there needs to be a height requirement too. I mean, the little dude that pushed over the woman was about her size. It's like you don't need to be a law officer of any kind, especially a street like you. If you have to go from 0 to 100, if you have nothing in between, you just have to go straight to your gun or you're useless, then you shouldn't be there.
Well, again, I teach defensive pistol. I teach people a basic pistol. I teach defensive pistol, concealed carry, how to protect yourself outside the home, how to protect yourself inside the home. Very, very strict. Like I tell my students, the very last thing you ever want to do is to pull a gun and shoot and kill somebody. That is that has to be your hierarchy. That is the absolute last thing, and that means you don't have any alternative. You don't have any way to get away. Your life is immediately you're threatened with being killed or serious bodily harm, or you're witnessing somebody killing somebody or causing serious bodily harm and you want to stop it. That's the only time. That did not apply here at all.
But what if you're in Israel and you see a journalist?
Yeah. Well, okay. What outlet do they write for?
That's the thing. That's the thing. ICE has been trained by Israelis. I guess the Israelis forgot to tell them you have to shoot everybody with the camera first.
Have you actually seen any documentary evidence that they've been trained by Israelis? Because the Israeli training sucks. The Israelis are awful.
It's evident. I mean, look at ICE. They can't even hold one guy down. Like you train people in shooting. I trained people in jiu-jitsu. I mean, the guy's wearing a jacket too. Like one person, especially when he's got one hand on his phone, could easily hold this person down and check him. And it never should have happened because he wasn't breaking the law and all that. But like, if you do have to subdue somebody, you don't need 6 people swarming all over them and all. And I know, and the fact that people are blowing whistles and stuff and raising the tension, you should be able to ignore that because you're supposed to be a trained officer. Like, okay, woman blew a whistle, so what? And they're like,
well, no, did you saw the video? So you can see the video where they pull. One of the officers reaches in to the guys. He's carrying. I think the guy was stupid. Where he carried the gun in his backside. That's a dumb place to carry your gun, but it was his choice. But the point is, when they pulled that gun out, did you actually see it fire? I mean, did you see was there a ricochet off the ground?
Here's the thing. Because of AI, when you see these videos and you see something on Twitter, you got to go get the original because someone can just make a little poof on the ground,
Yeah, exactly.
So this is Washington Post. Good enough, or maybe it's Wall Street Journal. I'm sorry, but anyway, it's establishment. So we can watch this. Here's gun removed. We'll go back.
Yeah, if you slow it down.
Yep.
So yeah, you see it you just pulled it out there.
Yeah, the guy in the gray jacket grabs it.
Yeah, and I can't tell if there is a shot.
Actually,
because that particular model of SIG, the SIG Sauer 320, has a bad reputation of some discharges when nobody's pressing the trigger, and it's on video. There've been several instances of that. So SIG has a problem.
It's Israeli too. It goes off early. So he sprayed. I'm gonna try and pause this right moment. He just shoves the woman. That's the second time he shoved her down.
Yeah.
Sprays
and then
Alex.
And he's not trying to hit the officer. He's not striking him. He's not grappling with him. But he's been assaulted by this Fed. There is absolutely no justification. That is unjustified use of force.
So watch the guy in the gray jacket. They're all like fat and out of shape too. What are they doing? He hit him with the can there, by the way.
Yeah.
So, if there's arrow even.
Yeah, he pulls the gun out.
Got it in his hand.
Okay, now, could you have? I saw one other video where you could look at his hand and see that the slide was retracted. You know what I mean when I say the slide is retracted?
Right, the slide. I was hoping to see if he. Okay, well, anyway, people have seen these videos a million times. Maybe I can edit one in. It does look like he shoots the ground. But I always say, hey, 50-50, because nowadays with AI, like one of the pictures that's going around has a guy with no head. What they did is they took a real picture. And
right, I saw that.
Enhance it. But when they did that, it made all these artifacts. Here's the actual picture. It's not very good. Like, actually, it's a moment after that. But, he's pointing the gun in his back. The person, like his head sort of in the stomach of the guy on the right, his head disappears when they enhance that with AI. And I'm like, guys, don't do that. You're just giving ammo to the other side when you exaggerate or use AI and you don't say enhance with AI. Like, you have to say that if you do that. Because we're getting to a point where you really can't tell the difference, even with video.
Yeah.
Everything's fakeable.
That's why actually I avoided. I hadn't said anything about this shooting until yesterday because I hadn't seen any defining video that was legit that showed. Because my assumption was that once they saw the gun, that somebody, that in those situations, the training is you go, gun, gun, gun. And that then the officers could have reacted, oh my God, he's got a gun. And that's why they started shooting. But watching that gun being pulled out, and if there was a negligent discharge by the officer who grabbed the gun, then that, the others I could understand, oh, there's a shooting, he's shooting at us. And then they
It
start
makes it
filling
more
him up.
understandable. I don't know why you shoot him 7 times. Like why he's like on the
Well, you
ground.
shoot. The rule of thumb is you shoot until the threat is stopped. So there, and a lot of times, people can get shot with a 9mm, and they don't necessarily go down immediately. So it varies, but again, they didn't see the gun in his hands, and you got to look. You can't just say, "Well, I thought he had a gun."
Shots were way after he was down and been shot 4 times already.
Yeah.
So it's just the whole thing was stupid. They should have been shoving the women around and didn't need to pepper spray that guy and didn't need to shove. They did. The whole thing that's already assault.
Well, again, the rabid Trump supporters are excusing this. That he never should have showed up there with a gun. Well, he had a constitutional right to that. It's not prohibited. Now, where can't you carry a gun? Even though, like in Florida right now, they've now got open carry, so you don't even have to get training to carry concealed. Which I'm frankly very much against open carry, because most of the people who are going to open carry don't have the kind of training, and they don't have a holster with retention that makes it difficult for somebody to steal the gun from you. And here, if you go to the post office, you can't carry a gun. If you're going to your kid's elementary school or middle school, high school, college, can't carry a gun. It's illegal.
Well,
if you go to
workers were the OG school shooters. They used to say "Go postal" because it was the influx of all the mail. They were going nuts back when the .coms required all these packages and they were losing it. Anyway, it's pretty much contained to Minneapolis for now. I just don't see this as serious about getting rid of illegal immigrants. Like, just get rid of welfare. You can't have welfare fraud if you have no welfare to begin with.
Right.
And that's like, if you don't want ants, don't put sugar on the floor.
A good number, a number of these illegal migrants have been brought in. I know they're working in Iowa at pig farms, chicken farms, turkey farms, egg farms, and they're paid sub-minimum wage. They have no benefits. It's modern human slavery is what it is.
But those Trump exempted the ones working in agriculture and hotels and things from deportations. So you have a job, you're not deported.
Yeah, so
I'm talking about the daycare fraud and that, like the millions and millions of dollars that is being fleeced is coming out of welfare, extortion through welfare programs. The person actually getting a welfare check, when you add that up, it's not that much, especially compared to corporate welfare or all the welfare fraud. That's the far greater chunk of the price tag. And I think like on a social level, welfare infantilizes people and does damage in a different way, even if it was cheap to do. Look at any Indian reservation and you can see how successful putting people in the dole is. It just destroys it. Even the island where I'm from, just full of drug addicts and things. I hear it all the time because business is kind of seasonal there. There's nothing in the winter. So a lot of people end up on welfare, at least temporarily. But they'll say, like, why should I work 9 to 5 when I'm going to make the same amount doing nothing, but I get all my leisure time? So you see one guy out there working and he's making money, and the other guy's just playing Xbox and watching Netflix and smoking weed, and he gets the same amount. So the guy that's worked is going to quit. He's like, it's better to just go on welfare. There's always going to be a line where you're punishing people for trying to improve themselves. And the other problem is if you don't go to that first rung of the ladder, you never get to the second rung. Most people who are middle class, rich, whatever, didn't start that way. We all had jobs when we were young that weren't great, but you improve, but they never even get on that starting rung. And then idle times, hands to the devil. Da, da, da. So welfare is damaging in that way. But what I meant was more of the like elder care, daycare, home care, all of that stuff. All these programs, some of them have money allocated to people that don't exist and things like that. Like all that needs to go. And they don't seem to be serious about it. Like Faircloth talk about workfare. That's what we have in Asia. So you get a check, but they make a BS job for you to do to waste your time. So you don't have the benefit of leisure time. So you have an incentive to get off of the welfare.
Mm-hmm.
Nice TED talk. Anyway, the reason I had you on today, that was a hot issue. We had to talk about ICE, but and I had to talk about Epstein because that's always big. But I'm very worried about Iran. I remember having you and a lot of other prominent voices on back in June before the war started to say no war with Iran. It seems to be even larger now. You did a Substack article where they had all the refuelers there. They've got all these F-35s to the base in Jordan. They've got the Lincoln there, the carrier strike force. Colonel Wilkerson says usually you need 3 of those, but I think you could count the land bases as a carrier, perhaps. It seems to be
the problem is the ones that are in the Persian Gulf. They're going to be if the United States launches an attack against Iran, those bases are going to be targeted and destroyed. Iran has the ability to target and destroy them, and I don't care how many air defense systems we put there. What the Iranians, they've perfected the tactic of flooding the zone with drones, with low-cost missiles that force. The Patriot systems are not smart systems. They don't have the ability to distinguish and determine what's inbound and classify it as though that's not really a serious threat. It shows up, they launch. You're going to launch 2 Patriot missiles, 2 to 4 against a single target. Well, they don't have an unlimited supply of missiles. They just simply don't, and they've used up a lot of them in Ukraine over the last 3 years, 4 years now, and even if Lockheed Martin is burning, 24/7, they only make. It used to be $550 a year. Now it's like $700. Okay, do the math. Just divide 700 by 2. All you need is 350 missiles, and boom, you've exhausted a year's supply of what they can make. Then what? Then you're dipping into reserves. So I agree. They continue to move military assets into the region, which raises the chance that they're going to strike. Now, what's interesting is, all of the economic turmoil that's taking place behind the scenes with this incredible spike in the price of silver. There is a big discrepancy between what the price is in New York and the price in Shanghai. It's like $10, $13 difference. So the arbitrage on that is significant, and that's going to move silver. Will move from the low price to the high price. And what the signals is a growing number of countries are looking at the United States and saying it's not stable. And when Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1972, the United States was seen as a safe haven, that it was predictable. You had a functioning legal system that wasn't playing games. And you could count on some stability. So people would buy, they'd buy U.S. treasuries. Hell, China was buying hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. treasuries. And so for the last, 52 years, 54 years now, the United States has been able to fund its extravagant lifestyle by convincing all these foreigners to buy the U.S. treasuries. Well, now they're no longer doing that. And they stopped, and they've been in a decline. It used to be like 60%. It's down to 40%. I had an article on Sonar 21 a couple of days ago about this. And then a friend of mine, Jeffrey Wernick, who who's the owner of BitChute, he wrote an excellent article explaining When you got the US dollar as a reserve currency, the reason it's a reserve currency is everybody, they trust it, they have faith in it, that it's not going to be politicized.
We had the least
And what
volatility, but volatility is not the problem. The problem is political decisions that'll just freeze your assets. I tell people
exactly?
all the time who act like, oh, we're invading to protect the petrodollar. I'm like, no, the opposite. All these sanctions and wars make people de-dollarize. There
Yeah,
wouldn't be a dark fleet and there wouldn't be people de-dollarizing if it wasn't for sanctions. There wouldn't be a black market oil trade like there is. Like a fifth of oil on the Maritime Silk Road is all dark. A fifth, 20%. That wouldn't exist. People
yeah,
would not be running from the dollar if we didn't freeze dollars from Iran, Venezuela, Russia, especially after the Russia. People, if it can happen to Russia, it can happen to anyone. So
right.
don't give me the excuse. We're going to war with Iran because of Israel. That's the same reason we went to war with Iraq, for Israel. The only reason Saddam wanted to try to get off the dollar because he'd been forced in the oil for food program after being invaded in 91. And there was no euro or EU back then, so don't act like he was about to go on a euro. He was not. Our foreign policy hurts the dollar. Our foreign policy
Yeah,
is there because a bunch of neocons lied. They created an office of special plans that started a war in Iraq for Israeli interests. And it's the same with Iran. Like they actually wrote a script, and that script is based on Netanyahu's book. And Iran is the final piece of the pie. Iran is a threat to Israel's ambition of land annexation and ethnic cleansing. They support Hezbollah, they support the Houthis, and they themselves are resistance. They have been doing all manner of sabotage to Iran, and we've got to talk about these protests. There was an organic protest, kind of like there was in Syria, because of the currency collapse, but that was created by EU sanctions. And the only reason they're sanctioning Iran is also because of Israeli pressure. But
well,
that's how
actually, let me interrupt you there. It was not just created by the sanctions. It was deliberately, the timing of this, it was a deliberate manipulation of the currency. It was no mere coincidence that this hit on December 28th and that Bibi Netanyahu was showing up the next day, the December 29th, to meet with Trump. This was, if George Soros could trigger a currency crisis in the UK, which he did, one guy, a billionaire, you're telling me that the CIA and Mossad working with MI6 can't actually trigger a crisis? Nonsense. That's absolutely what happened. And you're right. It was organic because they calculated, okay, these people, these merchants are going to be upset. They're going to get out on the streets and protest. And then we'll be able to infiltrate our outside agitators in.
Yeah, you always need a mass before you do an Operation Ajax. You got to rally up something so they act as cover for your agent provocateurs. Same thing as
Right.
Jan 6. January 6th was filled with feds. Nobody wants to argue about that. Like, they
And
asked
Ukrainians.
a plainclothes officer, like, I can't answer that. I'm like, thank you. You just answered it. The agent
And
provocateurs
Ukrainians. There were members of the Azov battalion there.
Most of these color revolutions are like that. The whole purple
Yeah.
thumb, all that stuff. They definitely put in their agent provocateurs. Now, these aren't like Israelis, like agents, actually. They should call them assets to be more accurate. They use Kurdish groups, minorities, and stuff within Iran to create this upstart. Nima, whose show you do a lot, he's over there, and he's like, what really made it clear is about a fourth of the ambulances were destroyed. Now, what kind of population destroys ambulances that they might need? Those are there for you. It doesn't really hurt, the government or whatever to destroy hospital equipment. It just hurts the public.
Right.
Then burning mosque is another huge red flag. What's the point in that? Why would you burn a mosque if you're mad about government decisions on currency? So these monarchists and stuff are in there running around. These are paid assets, paid, bribed, some of them groomed, some of them are just hapless idiots, kind of like early Al-Qaeda was for 9/11. They find, morons and instruct them on what you're going to be. You promise them the sky, and it doesn't matter because they're expendable. That was not a purely organic protest other than the super beginning. It was completely, and Pompeo
Right.
admitted it. I think it's the first time he ever told the truth in his life. And
Yeah.
every Mossad agent beside them.
Yeah. 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 I mean, they couldn't accuse us of being conspiracy theorists. Hell, if Pompeo admits it, you got to sort of take that with, that he does know what
When
he's
he
talking
said it,
about.
I thought maybe it is wrong. No. Yeah, I don't like conspiracy theory. I prefer spoiler alert.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's more accurate. Like most of what I mean, there are some stupid conspiracy theories. There are the Candace Owen types that think they're time traveling dream readers or whatever. But I don't care. Like the people denying the moon landing and stuff like that. That's not what we're talking about. Conspiracies are part of the world. Iran Contra was a conspiracy. Timber Sycamore was conspiracy. Operation Cyclone. Like anytime covert operations happen at all, that's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
As people illegally, secretly doing things, like that's a conspiracy. The mafia is engaging. We have convictions of conspiracy. Conspiracy doesn't need to be a dirty word, but it's become such because of the people who are like Elvis is still alive and whatever, Tupac and something. Those are dumb. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Now
Well, yeah.
we've got to.
You asked the question, was this an organic, um, unexpected development? Was it an act of God? Or was there any kind of organization and planning that went into this, that made this activity possible? Well, so by definition, the word conspiracy is supposed to mean two or more people working together to carry out a particular activity. So just say that a conspiracy theory has been now means that, oh, it's a lie. Well, no. I mean, you look at what's going on, and this, the fact that they'd used the Starlink terminals, again, those had been smuggled into Iran well before the 28th of December. And then when the Iranians came across that treasure trove of 40,000 of them, it shows how big this effort was. And just, that's a lot of money that was invested in a Starlink terminal. So,
Do you
this
agree
was
with
not a.
Ritter that they kind of burned their assets? I mean, that could be
Mhm.
incompetence, or it could be a 4D chess by Trump or whatever. I think incompetence.
No, it's just it's hubris, it's arrogance.
Yeah.
They'd really convinced themselves that this was going to topple the Iranian government. And once Iran, with the help of Russia and China, figured out what was going on, the electronic warfare part of this kicked in, and then they turned off the internet. So, and that was, I guess that was like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, Thursday. So it was the 9th, the 8th and 9th, the night of the 8th, early morning on the 9th, they turned it off. Because I had actually done an interview with Nima from Iran. And for people that don't know who we're talking about, Nima was born in Iran, went to school in Germany, got his PhD in engineering. He's a professor at a university in Brazil, and he's become a pretty popular podcaster. He's been able to attract a wide variety of people. But
Well, he's
he went
allowed
home
on
with his.
YouTube. That's an advantage.
Yeah,
He's allowed on YouTube, which is
yeah,
amazing.
and he went home with his wife and children to see his parents and to see his wife's parents, and and it just happened to be there. So he was able to broadcast on January 8th, but by the 9th, it had gotten shut down. Well, then they shut it down. All those spontaneous protests stopped. So the communications link on it was broken. And then, you had millions of Iranians who support the Islamic Republic. They don't necessarily support Pezeshkian, but they do support the Islamic Republic. Came out in support of the government. Now, the Pezeshkian, he's turned out to be a pretty lousy president, but he's also learned that now when he needs to shut up and do what he's told.
I have 3 friends that are in Iran that are, like us. They said it was like Friday was the worst of it. It was like 3:30 in the morning. coordinated in different cities. They started setting the subway entrances on fire and acting a fool. All at the same time.
Friday, January 9th, right?
Yeah, well, we can look that up. Let's see. I remember him saying Friday was worse. Yes. Yep. Friday was the 9th of January. About 3:30 in the morning. It got lit, and it was in all these cities. And Iran put out shield walls, water cannons, and fire teams to protect the shield walls, and quickly, singled out the provocateurs and took care of it. And once, as you said, shutting down the internet, catching the Turks and the Iranians, catching the Kurds, bringing even more terminals in. Once the communication was killed, these people fell apart. The riots were quickly subdued, and there was actually huge pro-government rallies, especially in the capital. But it seemed to be pretty much done everywhere other than Tehran by Sunday. They had already mounted up everything. Yeah.
And that's what, I believe the actual original, what Netanyahu and Trump talked about on Monday, December 29th, was this upcoming military strike, how these protests were planned to work out, what the plan was to infiltrate Mech, infiltrate Baluchis, infiltrate Kurds.
Mech is Mujahideen al-Qaeda. It used to be considered a terrorist organization. I'm telling the audience this. It used to be considered a terrorist organization. They sunsetted that.
Yeah, they were put on the terrorist list in 1997 and removed in 2012. But they were active in Iraq. They had a presence there. And so when the U.S. invaded in March of 2003, we initially rounded it up saying, oh, these are terrorists. But then in 2004, when we found out, hey, they don't want to attack us, they want to attack Iran. All of a sudden, they became our buddies. We set up training camps for them as well as in Albania. And then they began launching terrorist attacks cross-border into Iran. So they became another tool of the CIA. So this, all this nonsense about us fighting terrorism, whenever we find a terrorist that we like, it's okay. We just change the name.
Trump met Giuliani in the White House.
Yeah.
Leader of ISIS. Protege of al-Baghdadi. It's always been like that. It was like that when they were creating Al-Qaeda to fight Soviets in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
It just meant the database, and it was just a bunch of diaspora, like a database of foreign fighters that they could bring into Afghanistan to fight the Soviets. And a lot of them.
And they then unleashed them. They unleashed them back in 1999 in the start of the Second Chechen War in Russia.
That's right.
Yeah. So they're not just used one time. I mean, it was a continued as part of the go-to plan.
It's blowback because we end up being attacked on September 11th. I hope everyone knows that attack by Al-Qaeda. It's what made Osama bin Laden a household name. But a lot about that event. It's not like some accident. Oh, we created this mess, and look, he blew back to hit us in the face. A little bit worse than that, even. There's a free film below, ryandawson.org. It's free. It'll pop up on Substack and ask you if you want to pay. You can say no if you want. And you can watch that movie for free. It's all about September 11th and gets into how it was wrongly associated to Iraq to start a war there through anthrax and WMDs.
I was debating Lori Milroy back in those days. That crazy woman was a tool, put out there to perpetuate this mythology that Saddam Hussein was a big supporter of Al Qaeda. Now, what's really interesting
in the film, so are you. She co-wrote a book with Miller. She actually blamed the '93 World Trade Center bombing on Iraq.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma City. So
this the way that this was manipulated and throughout this, again, it was to demonize Iran. I don't know if you had a chance. I did a piece the other day talking about who's the biggest terrorist, and if you haven't read it, you ought to read it because I go into the actual numbers, and I use Bibi Netanyahu. I use his definition of terrorism that he presented when he was being interviewed by William F. Bugley on the show is it called Crossfire, or whatever Buckley's show was.
Yeah,
and
Liberty
it's,
back in the day.
it was a very simple definition. It was the use of violence against civilians for political purposes. And so if you take that definition and you ask the question, okay, in the wars in Vietnam, when we were killing civilians, I took it to 1960 and come forward, the wars in Central America, the war in Iraq, war in Syria, war in Libya. The number of civilians that we've killed in that period was around 4 million. And that's a conservative estimate. Then you ask the question, how about the proxies? Because, one of the things we got with Iran is not, boy, Iran funds Hamas and Hezbollah, and we got to stop them. Okay.
Civilian infrastructure bomb in Korea in War II.
Yeah, so when you add up those proxies, well, they killed an additional 3 million. So here's the United States has killed 7 million civilians for political purposes. We justify because in our mind it's always a just war. So then I turned around and asked the same question about Iran. Iran gets credited with killing about 250,000 civilians, but most of that's connected to the war with Iraq that we started. We encouraged Iraq to attack Iran.
Both sides, yeah.
But when you get into the number of proxies, this is where it really gets interesting. Go to any AI engine and ask, how many Israelis have been killed since 1982? Let's start with the beginning of Hezbollah. Since 1982 by Iranian proxies. Do you know what that number is?
6 million.
How about less than 5,000?
Yeah.
Less than 5,000 over 34 years. And
that's
yet,
a lot of them soldiers too.
And so, it just completely destroys. The reality is Hamas and Hezbollah have generally not been out killing, mowing down civilians. And I got into this discussion with a retired 4-star who was, we were on this conference call. I'll tell you off camera who it was. But he was saying, they've killed thousands of Americans have been killed. No, they haven't. Even in Iraq, you take the groups, they wanted to blame, they blamed Iran for using these explosive formed charges. So they were, and actually, Iran had learned how to build those from the United States Special Forces. When we were friends with the Shah, we trained the Iranian army how to build these. Basically a shape charge. Even that, it was less than 1,000. Less than 1,000 soldiers. But again, I don't classify the deaths of U.S. military personnel in attacks by insurgent groups as terrorism. It's not. It's called war. Mm-hmm. In fact, my ancestors in the American Revolution killed Brits that way. They've been classified as terrorism by our standards today, but they weren't terrorists. They were fighting occupiers. Yeah.
Well, the Brits were in uniform. They were soldiers and sailors that came over. My ancestors killed them too.
Yeah.
And probably got killed by them. So, but that was a war. The Brits they confiscated property, things like that, but they generally didn't just go around shooting civilians in any of those. Not with the colony wars, at least. But would have turned people against them. It's not for some moral decision. It was like a tactical decision. Don't do that. Half of them kind of on your side. So with the Tories.
Yeah, well, and we like Iran and groups they sponsored just attacked us for no reason. Oh yeah, September 1983, our battleships launched 2 different shellings from battleships into the Bekaa Valley, killed a bunch of Shia Muslims. Oh, guess what? October, they attack the Marine barracks and blow it up, as well as hit the French. Any
US blew
possibility
up a
that was
commercial airliner
retaliation?
for people too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this, like I said, we're getting gaslit, and all this publicity is being driven to justify a new war against Iran. When, in fact, there's this one kid. He's a good kid, Mario Nafal. He's on YouTube now. He's a protege of Elon Musk. And we were talking the other day, and I asked him. I just said, "Do you know where in the world is the second largest permanent Jewish community outside of Israel?" He said, "No, where?" I said, "Tehran."
Hmm.
He went, "Really?" Yeah, really. We're told that, those Iranians, they hate Jews so much, they can't wait to send them to Auschwitz or wherever. And it's not true. You've got Iranians who are Jewish, and they've been there for, well over, close to 3,000 years.
Hmm.
Or, well, 20, let's see, where are we? 2,500 and 76 years, something like that.
About 2,000 years. Depends what you define. Like, I'm not going to argue about it, but like, when did Judaism actually crystallize as a religion? Or,
Well, right.
if you're going to say it's an ethnic group, well, yeah, that ethnic group existed before the religion existed, of course. But,
Well, I'm talking about the ethnic group that got carted out of Israel, taken to Babylon, like it was that King Nebuchadnezzar. So, they've been there ever since. A number went back or moved to other places, but there were a number that said, "It's not bad. We'll stay here." And you're right. They were outside of the rabbinical tradition that developed after the destruction of the temple in 70 A.D.
yeah, the Talmud's still being written during the time of Christ. They weren't finished.
Right.
They had a whole bunch of different Jewish factions. It wasn't like the Jews. It was many kinds of Jews. And you really don't get uniformity in any religion until you get a population's literacy rates up, because you can't. It just fractions over and over. So all they can memorize is the core stories. Kind of like today, even though you can read and the books are basically free, no one looks at them. Anyway, we got the Mary worshipers that basically do the Eucharist, sing some songs, eat a holy wafer and call it a day. They don't study scripture. But some people even say Catholics and Christians. Like, hey, now Catholics are Christian-ish. They count. They're all Christians. Say Catholic and Protestant, Eastern Orthodox as the major sects, but there's many more. But they all have the core elements that are the same, and all the Jewish groups have core elements that are the same. But back then they did not. They were still polytheistic. A lot of Jewish groups they weren't even monotheistic. So I mean, you can't count that. But they've been in Iran. This isn't a Jew-Muslim thing. That's the way some people try and paint things. I think Saudi Arabia is as Muslim as it can be, and they're a staunch ally of the Zionists. They hate the Shia too. Like it doesn't matter if they're Muslim. Most of the Muslims in Syria were killed by other Muslims. Almost all. Well,
remember, Iran went into Syria to defend the Shia against ISIS and al-Nusra. Oh, and al-Jalani, by the way, as well. But they also protected Christians, and they also protected Alawites, who are sort of another flavor of Shia Islam. So
Alawites are almost Christian. So that's the most Christian Muslim group there is.
Yeah. But here we are then making, Iran is actually fighting the enemy that we claim as our enemy, when we then worry about trying to kill the Iranians and enable the guys that we said were our enemies. I mean,
like, he's fighting ISIS. Aren't we supposed to be against ISIS? I remember Putin saying that. Why don't we work together getting rid of these terrorists in Syria?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't know if he naively thinks the U.S. is doing anything in good faith. I don't know why. I think Russia's had it with that. They realize these are not serious. Although they may benefit from the rhetoric about Greenland. That could tear NATO to pieces.
Yeah. Well, this is what we're witnessing now is the collapse of the U.S. hegemonic rule. It'd be, how does South Korea reacting today to Trump's renewed threat to impose 25% tariffs? They're going, hey man, we love those Americans.
Well, before I get into that, I want to ask you this because I'm afraid I'm going to forget. Do you think Trump has dementia?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I, again, I can explain to you offline how I know that. It's just somebody.
Because for me, when I have no inside anything on Trump, people say he's always been dumb. I'm like, yeah, but he went to Davos calling Greenland Iceland. Like, that is not a normal, like, even an idiot knows the difference, and he kept.
No, it's called confabulation. Confabulation is actually one of the medical indicators of dementia. And confabulation, let's put it if you've got a chubby wife and your wife asks you, do I look fat in this dress? And you say no, that's not confabulation. That's lying. But you're lying for a purpose. You don't want to hurt her feelings and you love her. But when you start saying that I've stopped wars in 8 different places, and India and Pakistan are going, you had nothing to do with us. But
Trump, the Thailand dispute with Cambodia finally resolved because Trump wasn't part of the negotiations.
Yeah. So it is, but Trump genuinely believes what he's saying is true. So it's really a dangerous mixture of things going on. You've got he is suffering from dementia, early stages of it, and where he's saying things that he genuinely believes are true that are not true. He's also his
own morality can stop the U.S.
Yeah. Well, he's the law. There is no law to respect. He's smart. He's not a dummy. He's not. But it's a different kind of intelligence. But he's also terrible.
He doesn't have the problem Mike Huckabee has. He has some genetic problem. He's not just stupid.
Yeah. Well, but here's Trump as well, that he is so insecure. Someone who's met with him frequently described it as he reminds you of the kid who never got picked to play on the basketball team or on the base, or he was always picked last, or he was the leftover. Now, actually, when he was in high school, he was actually a pretty good athlete, but early on, something damaged him early on where he was just felt inferior, and now he overcompensates for it. Then on top of that, the fact that the CIA is actively lying to him about a whole variety of issues, particularly the war in Ukraine. They are literally telling him that Russia's suffering great economic damage, that Russia's suffering terrible losses, and it's not true. Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
He works for him.
Well, yeah. So here's, Cy Hirsch, when he put out his article a week ago on Substack, and in it, he made these outlandish. I love Cy. He's an old friend. I've known him for 45 years. But for God's sake, Cy, if you get somebody telling you, oh yeah, and last weekend, this was in his article, and last weekend the internet and cell phone service was shut down in Russia. What? Now, and so did he could have called me, he could have called Scott Ritter, and we didn't have to take our word for it. I could have connected him to a West Point grad who's, he's now 72 years of age, 73. He was head of the Russian club at West Point. He did 20 years with the U.S. Army. He was a special forces colonel. So, but he's Russian Orthodox. His family had escaped the Bolsheviks, and he went back because Russia's now a Christian society. there's Joseph Rose. He's an American out of Tallahassee. He did some work in Hollywood and then again converted to Christianity and moved to Russia. Oh, he had a Russian wife, and he's there. Stanislav Kropivnik. Stas came to the United States when he was like 10 years old out of the Donbass.
Russia media
Served in
would
the U.
report it anyway if something like that
Well,
happened.
yeah, but
So many, like,
but
Russian
he's
social media would say something, like, be all over Telegram. Like, you can't hide the internet went off. Like, it's so dumb to lie about.
Yeah.
But Cy Hersh also said the Israelis didn't steal uranium from the U.S. because Zalman Shapiro told him so. But he wrote that before the documents showing they did were declassified, where they physically found 97% rich, highly enriched uranium near Dimona.
Yeah.
Bucket and the rest of it. He didn't know that, but he should know that now, and he's never corrected what he wrote. So I don't
Correct. My point in all this is, so Trump's getting lied to by the intelligence community, and then on his own, he's believing things are true that aren't true, but they're in his brain, and he's convinced they're true. And so you're getting, and then the Israelis are calling a lot of the shots. He's got Susie Wiles as chief of staff. Man, she is the major gatekeeper, and she made sure that she populated the Trump administration with these pro-Israel types, the Zionist supporters.
Pete Hegseth
So
in the War Department.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That thing renamed it back to the War Department.
Yeah.
So the BIA came out of the War Department and they switched it to the Department of Interior. But it's funny that it starts in the War Department, because that's what it was. We call it bossing Indians around. That's what the BIA really is. And the head of it, John McCain, is a Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Are you suggesting that maybe we will put the Bureau, the Greenland under the Department of Interior now too?
Well, the official language of Greenland is an Inuit language, so they are Native Americans. But you can have Native Americans that are part of Denmark or Canada or some other country. They don't have America, the continent, it means, not USA, America. Yeah. But Dutch is a second language. So, and then they speak English in some of the tourist places, but there's only 58,000 people there. But they want to be part of Denmark. So if you believe in sovereignty, then that's the will of the people. They were talking about bribing. We'll just give them all X amount of money. And that's not how it works. You can't bribe people to vote on a referendum.
Well, yeah, but you come back trying to figure out why. Again, this is, I put this as part of Trump's dementia. He gets obsessed with wanting to take Greenland. Why? Has Denmark and or the people of Greenland ever denied us a request to place military personnel to launch any kind of military operation? No, not at all. Never. And that's in 75 years. So, but they got rare earth minerals. We got rare earth minerals here in Florida. You flew out of Tampa. So just, if you drew when you were here, if you drive 20 miles southeast of Tampa, there's this Mosaic Mining Company. There's a great golf course called Stream Song out there. Well, all the tailings from the gypsum mine is, piled above ground. They're filled with rare earth minerals, but they have to be processed. So you have to scoop them up.
Exactly.
And the only country that's doing the processing is China, predominantly. That's why they've got a, so-called monopoly on this. And yet,
there's some ideas about the cold. They need for AI. They're having trouble with the coolant on that, and so a very cold lab would work for that. Also, biolabs. It's good to be in a place like the Arctic, because if you do have an Andromeda strain type situation, as soon as it reaches the surface, it dies from the cold. So they do their secret biolabs in the ice often. That could be something. They actually had one that froze over. They left it, and it's actually buried in ice in Greenland now. But it's just he wants the color in the map. It's like his obsession with getting a Nobel Prize, because Obama got one, so he has to get one. Obama hurt his feelings. He's like, you'll never be president. He just sat there like,
Yeah.
He's like, well, Obama was 2 terms and got a Nobel Prize, so I have to do the same.
Right.
Well, Obama deported the most, Trump, so you can't get that record either.
Yeah. So, I
And
mean,
when you
this,
make Obama look good, you're pretty bad. Because he just
yeah,
didn't do
Trump is really, he's damaged, he's damaged his base significantly. And this latest incident in Minneapolis is further exacerbated. There'll still be the hardcore Trumpers, they're not going to abandon him, but,
this, man.
his,
Like that, he cannot turn on his donor class, and his base is like, they're pedophiles. Like you cannot win that argument. No one other than Nick Fuentes thinks pedophilia is cool. Like it's not. Everybody agrees that is not okay to be banging 11-year-olds, 14-year-old, and all that. And it's not just the blackmail and all in the money laundering, which people ought to be concerned with too. It's the kiddie filling, and everybody's concerned about it. Anyone that has a child is afraid some predator would do this to them. And even though a lot of their victims were Eastern Europeans, they forced into it, took their passport, like that kind of human trafficking. And there's been other like Epstein level rings have been popped, but they don't get any news. This one, for whatever reason, got attention because of Trump and Clinton, I think. So they're on it, and they're like trying to subpoena people. I don't think Les Wexner is going to say anything. He's 88 years old, 1 foot in the grave. He doesn't care. He already sold Victoria's Secret. Like they burned that asset. He's got too much heat on him. He can't do anything else. Like everyone's watching what Wexner does.
It's like, I know back when I was at the agency covering Honduras, there was this one senior Honduran official where we knew he was molesting children. This thing was kids, and the agency was using that as a way to keep him as an intelligence asset.
Israeli consul for Brazil was doing that. Ari Shur, he was with a Hebrew language teacher called George Steinberg, like he doubled down. And they created a prostitution ring of little kids, like 8, 9-year-olds, both sexes, by the way. Yeah. They were gay, but they used a lot of little girls in their videos and things. And they got popped because in the background of one of the videos was a swimming pool of the Israeli consulate. Like, why are you there, you idiot? And George got slammed and jailed, but Ari fled to Israel, as most pedophiles can, and they refused to extradite him. He ended up working in Hong Kong somewhere later, like no punishment at all.
Yeah.
That was the year 2000, and so that's 26 years ago, but it doesn't seem like it. Like, it's just on and on and on. There's another Israeli former IDF soldier in Colombia that set up child prostitution rings, sex tourism stuff. They have them in Cyprus right now. And I don't even know who I'm supposed to tell these stories to. Like that one with Ari, the Brazilian press got hold of and did some, but I can't go to CBS or like, who am I supposed to talk to about these dark rings we've uncovered? There's nowhere to go.
Right.
We do not have a functional media, and I'm not allowed on social media other than Twitter, and they've nerfed that to Kingdom Come. So like I'm there, but I'm not there. So I think Substack's where it's at. Like there's a new thing though, Larry. It's called Upscroll. It's everybody hopping over there. It's sort of like Twitter. So we'll see what happens there. And this video will go on BitChute eventually, but BitChute's kind of a core audience, but they don't have the level of televised news and nowhere near the level of YouTube.
Right.
It's sad. And I wish they did. I mean, I wish people would just go to BitChute to watch videos, or Rumble or Odyssey, but BitChute was the first ones, and get out of this habit of watching stuff on YouTube. Just go straight to BitChute and watch it there if you can.
Mm-hmm.
And when I use Substack and I'm going to embed a video, I will put the BitChute video there. Of course, I can't use YouTube anyway, but like even if there's a YouTube video, I will download that, upload that to a BitChute, and then put it on Substack. I am not going to use YouTube. you got to boycott these companies.
Yeah.
You know, if you keep using them, if you keep using Google, you keep using all their stuff, you're not helping the alternatives. I remember when there was no alternative, and I kept wishing there was, and there finally is, and people don't really use it. I'm like, somebody put their neck out and created a thing. You can put videos on BitChute, and they're well, it's not instantly YouTube level. I'm like, well, you know, you got to make a conscious decision to do it. And I think Upscroll, because they're censoring the reach of so many pro-Palestine Twitter accounts, that you might want to look at Upscroll and Red Note, things like that, support these alternatives. They're small now, but they'll grow for sure. And that's our situation in there. So we covered ISIS and a little bit on Venezuela. I want this a little bit more in Iran, and I'll let you go. If a
What
war
did you,
starts,
let me ask you on Venezuela. You figured out why we did Venezuela, right?
Paul Singer. I mean, like,
Yeah.
have you seen my Substack about it? I went all into the details. Like,
Oh,
you're making
okay.
billions
Yeah, no, I haven't
on the
seen
head
it yet.
injured. Well,
I need to get around. You know how it is. But
yeah,
yeah, no, I agree entirely, because it's like the drugs, that was a complete,
it's not
misdirection.
narco-terrorism. Oh my God.
The fact that, we needed the Venezuelan oil. The only guy that needs Venezuelan oil is Paul Singer,
Mhm.
because he's got those 3 refineries. Did you come up with the number? I had a rough calculation that at 700,000 barrels per day, at a production cost of refining the crude is generate $15 to $20 of revenue for Singer per barrel. So we get up to around $11 billion, $12 billion a year.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's one way to pay back a campaign contributor?
Billions, and from overtaking Citgo. And the thing is, he got that at a depressed price because first Trump started bombing ships and put an embargo, and he shut down the air and tried to shut down the sea, so that it was at a depressed price. However, another company outbid him by $1.1 billion. And yet it was awarded to Paul Singer anyway. The officer of the court just happened to be the board of directors for AIPAC. How about that?
My God. It's a coincidence.
Robert Pincus. Yeah. It's all in my Substack if anyone's interested. I went on because I watch these people. I'm like, oh, we're going to Venezuela. Let's see which billionaires involved. Okay, here, Paul Singer donates to Trump. He's going to make billions off that.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to damage some of the flow from the dark fleet. But they didn't even bring that up, which is weird to me. I'm like, if you're doing that, why don't you say that? I'm like, oh, because a lot of your own donors are in the black market too. Like, they put the sanctions on, create a black market, and then they go get involved in that market. Like, they're making money off of that. The mob does this. Like, prohibition helps the mob sell alcohol, whatever. Prohibit. Like, duh. And a lot of these criminals, which they don't need to be because they have legit businesses and they already have money from these businesses, but they always need more. And they're in these dark markets that are created by sanctions. And so they, you had a couple of vulture capitalists bidding on Venezuela's Citgo at the refineries. The one that outbids the other loses because the Paul Singer's political connections, and AIPAC wins and he gets it. And Trump went and kidnapped the leader of another country and his wife, who apparently they hit in the face or something. CIA just went in and bribed the honor guard, go in, grab him. Paul Singer gets the contracts. Venezuela's institutions, military, everything's still intact. But I was like, but that wasn't the point. They're not after drugs. They're not after terrorism. It's Paul Singer's contracts. That's all. Billionaires run the Trump administration. And that's why this thing is so important. But it drives me mad. I'm like, I put that out in 2007.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's frustrating to no end.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that, brother.
Yeah, I saw you talking about the Niger forgeries immediately, right? One of the first people on there. And, did what I could to spread that out and say what was happening. And, Justin Raimondo covered a bit on Ladine and Grabanifar and stuff and Curveball and all that, but it just, you're just yelling at the wind. And sometimes we don't have a functional media, and we're never going to fix our political problems until we fix our press problem. If people are not informed, then crime has no consequence.
Well, that's why, people increasingly, at least the under 30 generation, under 40, they're not watching, MSNBC, CNN, Fox.
CBS is now the worst.
Oh,
Ellison's CBS with Barry Weiss, who I did a 7.5 hour woodshed on. I think it's my longest woodshed. They were saying 43,000 are dead in Iran, protesters. First 12,000, 20,000, 43,000. It's like, man, I have a joke in my head that I'm not going to say.
Did it involve 6 million, perhaps?
I'll tell you off air. It wasn't 6 million. That's too easy. This was better.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's just a joke. So I'll tell you, he plays on the stereotypes. So a Jewish boy goes to his father and say, "Can I have $5?" He's like, $10. What do you need $15 for? What in the world did I give you $25? By the way, where's that $50 you owe me? Jewish guy told me that joke, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like the meat shortage. Finkelstein's famous for that. Have you heard about the meat shortage? It's like a North Korean, an American, and an Israeli in the car and taxi, and the taxi driver turns around and says, "Excuse me, have you heard about the meat shortage?" And the North Korean guy goes, "What is meat?" He goes to the American, this is before, recently. "Excuse me, have you heard about the meat shortage?" "What is a shortage?" He didn't know.
Yeah.
He's like, "Excuse me, have you heard about the meat shortage?" Hold on. The Israeli guy goes, "What is excuse me?"
Oh my God. Hey, that's where I went to my birthday dinner tonight to a Korean steakhouse.
Nice.
They do Korean. They don't have all the banchan that you would at a first-rate. I mean, it's a great restaurant, but they just provide you the kimchi.
You
they
gotta
used
come
to
over
have.
here. I went to Sexyama's Steakhouse last month. It was he's a UFC fighter, Korean UFC fighter. He opened a steakhouse. We went down there. It was really good. Gotta say.
Yeah. By the way, I've got a visitor here. Hang on. Here, Blackjack. Say hi.
I was almost expecting him to talk, like you bark or something.
Yeah, it's 135 pounds of raw muscle. So, but sweet dog.
You're getting Lindsey Graham excited. Oh man, he's got his own entrance music at the truck stop.
Oh boy.
You ever go to my Twitter? This is for whoever listening to. Go to my Twitter and type in like @Ryan Dawson and then write Lindsey Graham. And you can just see pages of one-liners on Lindsey Graham. Because Lindsey Graham uses the metric system on purpose. So here, you know what I mean? You go in a store and order an unsweetened iced tea. Give a South.
Yeah, that's.
I'll look at you all like, what? We don't have that. Would you like your diet ice cream too?
Yeah.
We just don't order a tea. So if there is a strike on Iran, I assume you would agree it would be limited to air and artillery. They wouldn't possibly be dumb enough to go in on the ground, would they?
Well, we can't go. We have no way to go in on the ground. It took us about 8 months to build up the force that went into Iraq in 2003. There's this. It's called the tip fiddle. It's the time, phase, deployment. This acronym. So the only way that you could possibly, if the United States was going to invade Iran. There's no way they could do it covertly. It would be you would watch the buildup, and there's so it's not going to be on the ground. It'll be in the air. The thing that's changed over the last 6 months is that Iran has significantly upgraded its air defense. I had thought prior to June 13th that they had actually had a number of Russian systems like the S-400, but they didn't. There was one S-400. It was at a nuclear plant that the Russians are building and remodeling for the Iranians down in the southwest corner. And that had an S-400, and it didn't get hit. U.S. and Israel left it alone. But the rest of Iran, its systems were ineffective. Well, both Russia and China have stepped in significantly since June 25th. At the request, the Iranians finally, realized that they had placed their head in their nether regions and they needed to pull it out, and they did. They'd refused to ask for help before. It's time they asked for help, and they got it. Russia and China played a significant.
AWACS systems from Pakistan too, who got them from China, of course, but indirectly got them from the Chinese. They proved effective against the little war with India, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
The early warning. When it comes to air versus air, it's like, dude, whoever shoots first wins. They don't have armor. Like, if you can find them and hit them first, that's it for the air war. So AWACS.
Well, and here's another number to keep in mind. The size of U.S. Air Force in terms of combat aircraft, fighter, bombers, 30% less than what we had in the Gulf War. And, an increasing percentage of that force is relying on the F-35, which is, it's a hangar queen. It gets broken easily. It has to be fixed. It's not a great air fifth generation fighter at all.
Well, even the F-18 supposedly slid off the edge of the boat there fighting the Houthis, which I feel like casualty laundering is what that is. I think a lot of these Israeli soldiers committing suicide is casualty laundering. They don't want to admit they died in combat. I think you go back and look at the number of combat deaths that Israel has officially reported in the whole Gaza operation. It's like less than 1,000, but that's not counting the suicides. And the suicides sound that they may be up in the 300, 400 range. So, they're paying a terrible price for their sins. I really want to find a Navy person to ask, like, can a jet just slide off the edge of a boat? That just seems like cartoonish to me. Like, I think they got shot down. I don't know.
If it's not,
that just sounds silly to me.
Yeah, that's possible. But if the aircraft carrier is trying to maneuver quickly to turn to avoid getting hit by an inbound missile, and they don't have the plane properly secured, I think it could go off the deck. But I'll check with some of my Navy buddies, see what they say.
Seems like you're in hostile territory, secure all the planes. Why is one or two of them loose? I don't know. DEI, who knows? Like, it just sounds like, what? It fell off the boat? Really?
Well, it could have been like, what happened to the Japanese carriers at the Battle of Midway, where they had armed them with with torpedoes, and then they were trying to switch them out to, they got caught on deck. And so this could have been a similar situation that in a crisis response, they just got sloppy.
My son, he tells jokes like his dad. He said to me, "Here's your Japanese Zero. You are the ammo." I was like, dude, that's dark. Yeah. You are the ammunition. Get inside. You are the bullet. I understand it though. They did what they could. They knew what would happen if they reached the mainland. They end up getting nuked twice. No point in that either.
Chris, that's the other thing is, the U.S., what I call sort of the mythology about World War II. we always minimize China's role in that war, except the numbers I've seen, and I haven't seen independent verification, but that 70% of the Japanese ground forces were actually on the ground in China. They weren't out in the islands.
Yeah.
Were fighting the U.S. They were fighting the Chinese
and the Mongols.
And the Russians were more than happy to provide both not only Mao's folks but the Kuomintang with weapons. So the Russians weren't playing just an ideological game. They were they recognized the nature of the threat, what it represented.
Japan did not want a North and South Japan the way there was a East and West Germany. So they were willing to surrender to the Americans. And I hear all the excuse all the time, like, oh, we wanted total surrender. It's like, the surrender you got in August is exactly the same thing they offered in April. They did not add anything else. You still had to protect the emperor and all that. Same conditions they had. Japan formed a new government in April to surrender to America. And they didn't matter. It's because the Yalta said, this is the day Russia's going to invade. So the U.S. was flexing its nuts using these two different types of atomic weapons, one uranium, one plutonium. That whole display was aimed at the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And they didn't care. Nagasaki wasn't even a target. That wasn't even supposed to be the target. Weather protected the actual target. They're like, oh, just bomb that. Like, it didn't matter to them at all.
Yeah.
And they just murdered a bunch of civilians.
Well, I think the work you did in publishing the names of all the generals that had opposed it. I mean, it was, even if I recall, Curtis LeMay even thought it was a bad idea.
That's on Substack too, you guys. I'm going to make a link for that and Venezuela if I remember. Yeah. If you want to know that